Well, Sunday night, and I am called upon to do some more connecting the dots tonight, after all this today. And so, as you know, I have stated that I had a life among the Anunnaki, and I still am in contact with a few members of that family, and Lil and Enki, and Ninma and Nigashita. And so I never am too abrupt or direct about what they're about. Okay. Because Nibiru is here. Nibiru is here from its 3,657 year orbit around wherever they go, and they're back. And I've taken so many pictures, so many re-renderings of Nibiru in our skies, okay? And I can show you how they hide themselves behind the chemtrails in the area of the energy spectrum I call double blue, okay? So they're hiding. They're hiding on Nibiru. What's left of Nibiru after the spring of 2013, when the ice wake, you know, in the pictures of Nibiru, you see the red planet and then it's got this shawl of white around it. That ice wake hit them early 2013 and sheared off their outer layers, which are all dark matter. Okay. And so they've always been kind of fuzzy about what's going on. Well, now that we're digging into the Tartari history. So I went back to my sources and I say, okay, let's connect the dots. We know from their icons, we know Tartary has been a bastion of the Masonic Order, the Masons, the builders, okay? Builders and Masons go together. Masons and Tartary go together. Recently, George Herbert Walker Scherf Bush, the Mason, the guy who was involved in Majestic 12, who's involved in the ET treaties, okay, has passed on. So we need to look at, where did the Tartarians go? Now, in our history going back 70 years, in 1946, 47, okay, wasn't it Admiral Richard Byrd who pursued Operation High Jump and got chased out of Antarctica, right? And hasn't in the evidence that we have got now that Hitler got away and he went to Antarctica, okay? And we know that both the Norwegians and the Germans established bases in what the part of Antarctica they call New Schwabenland, okay? We know that the German Nazis have a base down in Antarctica, and the German Nazis follow, okay, the Masonic symbols and practices. The German Nazis were pedophiles and homosexuals, and that was part of their culture, so they weren't apologetic about it, okay? Am I making sense? So what if I posit to you the possibility that when the Tartarian regime empire was wiped out by the Mudflood, they probably, with their 0-point energy and stone technologies, went to Antarctica, and they're probably there. And what we know about them is that they were inclusive and exclusive. All of their cities were walled. You couldn't get in unless you were one of them. And if you weren't one of them, you were out. They were elite. They were holier than thou. They thought their shit didn't stink. To the extent that they didn't build toilets in their housing, they had some other method of disposing of human waste. I'd really like to know what that might have been. Okay, imagine housing with no toilets. The palace at St. Petersburg had no toilets. The Louvre and the palace of King Henry or Louis XIV had no toilets. Oh well, that's for another day. All right. So my suspicion is that the Anunnaki are in Antarctica with the leftover German Nazis, and they're using their free energy technologies to heat up a place in the ocean to make it habitable for themselves. And they've been there, what now, 70 odd years. And since they are in contact with Majestic 12 and the high order Masons in the United States that were brought over from Germany after World War II, they're basically in charge of the elites that are dominating everything. So what's everything? Everything is the UN, Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, and the bankers. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? If there's an ET threat upon our world now, the ones who want to reduce the population of our worldwide community of nations, the people who have the ability to do that to us are the Anunnaki. They have the ability, they have the technology, and their philosophy comes straight out of the El-Anu Treaty of the Galactic Elohim, which says there are superior races and there are inferior races, and it is the job of the elites to dominate and control the inferior races. That's what the El-Anu Treaty says. And so I am positing that our real human problem now is the Anunnaki, who are down in Antarctica, where no human is allowed to go. All right? By treaty, we're not allowed to go there. And who crafted those treaties? All of the Masonic leaders. And who are bolstering the Masonic leaders? The Jesuits. Okay, the Vatican. Okay, we've always known that these elites have intentions that push people around. They're bullies. They're bullies, and they've always been bullies. And so we need to step back and look at disclosure and non-disclosure and determine what we can do to protect ourselves from the Agenda 21 or Agenda 30, which is crafted by the UN, that's run by the same elites, and to protect ourselves from weather modification and scalar weaponry that sets forests on or houses on fire instantly and causes floods at will. We have to protect ourselves from these technologies that have been turned against mankind. By whom? Who else? Who else could it be? Who else is there? Who else has always been here? the Tartarians are the Anunnaki. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And let's look into what our government is doing to protect us from the ET treaties that Eisenhower signed in 54, 58, and Bush signed in 2006. Let's look at what the TPP treaty says about human rights in view of the fact that our laws are now dominated by maritime admiralty statutes, administrative codes, and treaties that treat us, the people, as if we are consumables. We are body parts waiting to be marketed. We are slaves. Okay, we are chattel. That's our status, if you know anything about law. All right, we have some things to kind of worry about here. And I think it'd be a good idea for each of us to query our representatives and senators and say, hey, what about this Agenda 21 and the way it swept across Paradise, California wasn't natural? And what about the poisons that are in our environment that we did not consent to? Okay, and what about a medical system that pushes people off just indefinitely if they don't meet certain technical criteria for being treated? You know, there's nothing to treat is what they tell some people. There's nothing to treat. All your test scores are normal. Your blood tests are normal. Your x-rays are normal. There's nothing for us to do. That's the way the medical profession operates. The way the quackademia teaches our children is that there's no such thing as wisdom because all reality is an illusion and the family has no meaning and the community is just who you happen to like. They have negated wisdom, negated sanctity and loyalty and fidelity and chastity. They have negated the elegant ways of people relating to each other harmlessly. So we need to start questioning what non-disclosure has done to our world because it's been pretty ugly. It's been pretty ugly. So give that some thought. You know, if the Anunnaki are the ones who've always been here for 450,000 years, as per the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, well, then it's about time we better figure out what the hell they're doing here now. Yeah, it's time. See you tomorrow.